Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you today. Today, we are talking about, is 2026 the year that you train as a coach? Finally. And the reason that we are covering this is it's the start of a new year, natural place to think about any changes that you want to make. And we know coach training is on a lot of people's lists. And wouldn't it be good to either scrub it off the list and decide you're not doing it anymore? It's not for you, not relevant to where you're at in your life right now, or it becomes a head, heart, practical yes, and then you take the action, so that by the end of this year, if you haven't finished the training, you're a really good step there. And how would you feel next January being that much further forwards in that? So we're going to explore that with you today.
Yeah, and how do you know? How do you know if 2026 is going to be the year for you? Because when I speak to people who've been thinking about coaching for some time, there's lots of people who've been literally thinking about training to be a coach for years. So what is it that we see brings people to the point of making a decision? And as you said, Jo, sometimes it's about scrubbing it and letting those thoughts go because they take up mental and emotional capacity, or converting them into action and a decision. And I think sometimes, one of the things that can hold people back from deciding to train as a coach is just knowing that your decision is valid. And what I mean by that is whether you decide to go ahead and train as a coach or whether you decide not to go ahead and train as a coach, both of those options are absolutely fine when they are aligned to what you need. So when you think about training to be a coach and the fact that it's been ruminating in your mind and living there for a number of years, what is the need that you're trying to meet as you try to make a decision about whether to train as a coach or not? So for some people, that is about deeper connection to their work and craving kind of more meaning and more compassion. For others, it might be about career pivoting, setting up in a new career, or setting up as an independent coach. It may be about learning about yourself and deepening the relationship you have to yourself and your self-awareness, and kind of going on that journey of almost, reinvention or recovery, depending on your context. So I think it's connecting back into what brought you to be passionate and query training to be a coach in the first place. And are those needs still present? And if so, how can you get them met?
Yeah, I think most people don't do a training program because they want a certificate. And that's because they know that it's a whole, you've got to be fully invested in it, really. It's got to be something a bit more soul-led, driven. So underneath the reasons that people will often give as like a easy, quick answer as to why they want to do it is where they feel like they're kind of bored with being the person that fixes everything, and they want to have better conversations. So they want to probably spend time with other people that have a similar mindset and don't need that. You might be feeling a bit burned out and want to have work that's more aligned with their values, because actually that's the only option in terms of sustainability. Maybe you've been managing people for a long time, but you feel like nobody ever taught me how to develop people, but I'm being told to develop people all of the time. And I think I'm doing all right, but I feel like there are other things, there's more value I could add here. Or perhaps you're one of those people whose role is changing, perhaps it's going to disappear, and and sense that you're going to need to pivot. And you feel that coaching training could not only help you pivot, but also help you emotionally as well as practically through that. Or perhaps you already feel like, I've got loads of experience coaching. I think I want to turn that into something that becomes more of a central part of my life, because there's an identity connection with that. So those might be some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So, but I think you also have to have a reality check along the way with that. So when you're training to be a coach, what actually is it? So you are learning about holding boundaries, which is so important for your well-being, for other people's well-being. You're learning how to contract clearly, which is about managing expectations. You're learning how to listen beyond words. You're working with emotion in a responsible and ethical way. You're challenging with care. You're helping people create the change that they want to see in their life. And you might not feel ready for that, because it might feel like that's a lot. Like, how am I going to manage to do that? Well, a great training program is going to break that down into manageable chunks for you. And you will feel uncomfortable at times when you're practicing things and You feel like you're stumbling, you're pausing, you're checking back, am I doing this right? Is 2026 going to be the year of growth for you? Are you willing to kind of confront those things in order to move forwards?
I think there's also a question of like, what is it you're waiting for? So if you have been thinking of training to be a coach and you've been churning around the idea for whether it's months or years, what is it that you're waiting for? And how genuine are those waiting decisions? So you may be waiting to feel ready. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but readiness isn't something that really happens. Readiness is something that happens when you take the steps forward, like you become more ready. And sometimes, even when you are on the coaching program itself, you still don't feel ready because there is a learning and an unlearning process that happens. But waiting to feel ready is an illusion. It's action that helps you to gear up to feel or become ready. So sometimes that's just about taking a small step forward. And you may have been spinning around the research phase of like looking at all the different courses. And now where you're at, instead of waiting to feel ready, is you just feel confused. And now you're waiting to know which course is going to be right for you. And again, that doesn't happen on its own either. And sometimes you won't know which course is right for you. Sometimes it's a leap of faith. I spoke to many people this year who've been deciding between different providers. And there's one lady who sticks in my mind. She literally waited to the day before the program started to sign up because she was in like decision paralysis around which one to go with. And in the end, it was her heart that led her to train with us because that was where she felt the deepest connection. Like in your head, you can often line up all the pros and cons, and this course has got that feature and that course has got something else. Ultimately, an accredited coaching training program from a reputable provider is going to give you a good experience. So actually, how do you make a decision? Sometimes it's really just about checking in. Where do I feel most drawn? What do I feel the most excitement for? And take the leap of faith, because sometimes the evidence that you're looking for just isn't necessarily going to appear in the way that you may think that you need it to. So I think that head and heart piece is really helpful to you on the journey of deciding to train to be a coach.
I think having conversations with organizations that offer coaching training is obviously your first next step, because you'll be able to have the opportunity to say, I'm really nervous about signing up because of this or that, or can I just check, like, what am I evaluated on? Like, what do I need to do to pass the course? What if this? What if that? And the organization will be able to answer those questions. So you've then got the information, which will probably give you a sense of a safety net. Like when you've got all of the answers to your questions, at that point, that's the point to, make the decision. What I would say is don't train as a coach if you're wanting a quick fix for financial stress. If this is definitely not the option for that. You can have a great career with coaching, but when you have that pressure behind you, I think it can just sap the joy out of the whole experience. And of course, there are no guarantees, and not everybody trains to be a coach to have their own business. Lots of people use coaching as a part of the other things they do as well. If you're looking for external validation of what you already do rather than developing a skill set, maybe not the best reason to do it, because the whole point is to grow and develop, to learn and unlearn, as Zoe was saying. And I think you'll get more out of it when you enter into it, knowing you have, of course, got some coaching skills already, but really being open to being stretched and growing and developing and building out that toolkit.
Mm.
If you dislike working with people's emotions, coaching might not be the thing for you, because people are going to share their emotions. That doesn't mean that if you don't feel you're very good at it, not to do it. That's different. If you don't feel that you're great at it and you want to develop it, it could be a great thing to do, but you need to have the desire really to want to do that. But that's part of what lights you up, what you get fulfillment from, because others will feel that from you. And it's part of your own development as a coach as well, that relationship to your own emotions as well as other people's. So, I mean, there's lots of other reasons not to do it. I think we're not saying train to be a coach in 2026. It's how do you work out if this is the year that you want to do it? Or, as I said earlier, that this is the time where you cross it off the list and you start to turn your attention to other things that you want to invest in for yourself.
I remember long before I trained as a coach, when I was in a corporate career, and I was in the phase of like, I want to do something else. I want to do something that is more meaningful, making a difference. And on my list, I had all sorts: medicine, teaching, coaching. I think I even put down like, services, like fire and police. Like I was just like scanning, and I can remember being in my office and looking at this list and thinking like, gosh, what am I going to do? And how I came to train as a coach is I started sampling it. So I had coaching myself. That was really useful in helping me to decide to train as a
Mm.
coach. I spoke to other coaches who were kind of doing it and had gone through coach trainings, and I listened to their stories. And I also spoke to teachers, and I started like almost really starting to associate into these different roles. And I found that so incredibly helpful to help me to eliminate some things and realize that many of the things on that list weren't even close to my values, but it's more the draw to make a difference that was the overriding thing for me. And when I was able to match my needs to the stories that I was hearing and the experiences that I had, it made the decision really, really easy for me. And it wasn't so much about timing. It was just like, for me, it was like, as soon as I knew that was what I wanted, I just did it anyway, because I'd spent so much time researching and narrowing down, and I'd already invested this effort that I was like, well, this is as close as I can get. So I'm going to go and do it. And I'm okay if it doesn't lead me to where I think it's going to go. But this is an important step now that I have to take to satisfy myself that I'm either in, or I've gone through a brilliant program, learned a load of stuff, and I don't have to use it in the way that I thought I was going to. And I think I bring that because, going back to what we were saying about people waiting, might be waiting for a really clear plan, or you might be waiting for a really clear answer. You may not get the 100% clarity that you're looking for. So maybe 80% is what you need to be able to make a decision. So how do you get as close as you can? I think it's really important to check back in. What is it that you really need to be able to make a decision as confidently as is realistic?
And coaching is great for helping people make
Oh
decisions.
my gosh, yes.
There's an irony there. I think for me, one of the there were two parts to me, I think. One was around, there was a strategic decision. So it's partly around future proofing. So, when you're in an organization and, yes, you go off and do leadership development programs, which I enjoyed. I'm like, yes, please, I want to be on it. But the reality is, on my CV, it's irrelevant. It might be relevant to the sector that I'm in or the organization that I'm in, but I always knew that I wouldn't be staying with one organization for the rest of my career. So I wanted to have currency in my CV to be able to progress. And then on top of that, like we've talked many times before, like I'd have this consistent feedback about, oh, Joe, everybody comes and talks to you, but all of that. And so thinking, I'd really like some of that myself. If I go to coaching training, I get to have some of that as well as being able to hone that skill. So there definitely was an element for me of like, it just felt like I'd discovered my professional home. I didn't know it existed as a profession at the start of my career. Obviously, once I discovered it, and then, brought coaching, had coaching, I'm like, it's that sense of familiarity of having been there. And I love the fact that it's emerging and you're still emerging now. It's exciting. It's a big field, but also it gives you the flexibility that I didn't start out thinking I'm going to become a coach educator. I didn't start out thinking, oh, I'm going to do that. I kind of embraced it because there was a sense of knowing that, that this was something that is important for me to do. So I entered into it as an open, I don't know if I entered it as an open book, but really open to what might come out of it.
I remember about halfway through your coaching training, you called me, you're like, I'm going to have to resign. Like, you didn't go into it thinking you were going to resign from your role. Like, you had a good job, you enjoyed your role, you were on a great trajectory, I think, to being CEO, weren't you? And I remember you phoning and you were just like, oh, Now that I see it, I can't unsee it. And I think that's the piece around open mind, isn't it? You don't have to have it all worked out. You definitely don't need the plan to decide whether you start training to be a coach or not. Like, if it's enough for you to know that you're going to find it fulfilling and invigorating, you'll find a way to take your ROI, your return on investment from the program. That might be in accelerating your career through different roles, or having the confidence to ask for a pay rise, or like so many different ways. Or it may be a bit like you and me, where we go into it with one idea and come out, and here we are 15 years later with this business. Where a coach training takes you doesn't have to be fully planned out and aligned. Like, the journey is the joy. The journey is the part which has got the value.
I think the coach training for me enabled me to discover me, like to fully discover me. I think it started me on a pathway of like emboldening me. It has had a massive impact on my confidence, like huge. I can't imagine any other experience that would have that impact. And so as you look ahead to not only the rest of 2026, but the years in front of you, in all of my feeds and so on, I see people talking about how important these human skills are, the ability to like work with emotion, hold like all the things that are the essence of what makes us human, which is really what coaching is about. It's called coaching, but I mean, we could call it many other things really. And at the heart of it, it's about how to connect with other human beings on a level that is deep and meaningful. And, I wish all life was about, like how we communicate in a coaching sense. And of course it's not, because there's so much noise. There are so many pressures, in the outside world. But for many people, coaching training experience is also very healing. And so, if that resonates with you, like choose a great program where you have plenty of opportunity to practice, get feedback, be observed, have great resources to be able to tap into, and know that that you can embrace your emotional honesty on that journey to
Mm.
get the most out of it.
I spoke to a leader the other day who was, a C-suite leader, talking about thinking of training to be a coach, looking at the current role that he was in, and also what the future sort of retirement plan might look like. Long way off retirement, but thinking, I'm not going to be not working when I'm 60. So this is, what do I do between like 60 and 80? Like, I've planned to be young, fit and able. And we got talking about all the different things that coaching can do and contribute to the organization. And of course it does, and all the people that they were mentoring anyway. And then we got talking about parenting, and we got talking about mindset and beliefs and self-worth. And those are the human things, I think, that people come to coaching. Some people come as that's the priority. They won't necessarily share that with others, and they lead with the desire to be a better leader. But yeah, I think a lot of people are coming to coaching for the self-development and the personal development journey. That need isn't going anywhere despite what changes in the world. So we know that artificial intelligence is coming in. It's going to transform so many different industries. It will touch on the coaching industry as well, and nobody can really predict what will happen. But my prediction is that in the coaching industry, those behaviors, that ability to connect with compassion, to have deeper and more meaningful relationships, to support people with the more human-centered emotions and behaviors, that's going to be what really sets you apart as both a leader and a coach. Because technology can do so much else, but it can't connect in a way that another human can. And coaching really shows you how to do that, and do that well. That changes both who you are as a person, but also the relationships that you show up to. And those relationships are both in work and in the rest of your life as well. So, yeah.
Well, you can boil it down to three things, I think, in terms of decision making. First of all, is it a yes in your head? So that means, does it make strategic sense to you? Like from a skill set point of view, thinking about your career, your credibility, does the head say yes? If it does, great. Does the heart say yes? Like, does it feel meaningful for you? Does it feel like it would give you back more than you'd even put into it? Do you want to do this work with people? Does it excite you? If it's a yes, great. You got 2 out of 3. I think the final one is the calendar. Is there space in your calendar? And I don't think that's not like, is it easy? Because I think if anybody said, like, have I got time to do it? You'd probably say no. Can you make it work? If you can make it work, From the calendar point of view, from a financial perspective, the head and the heart says yes,
Mm.
then I would say it's probably strong signals that 2026 might be the year for you. Because if you wait, what are you going to look back on in 2026 that's going to be more valuable to you than this? If there is something, then maybe 2026 isn't the year. But if you can't think of anything else, wouldn't it be amazing to achieve that for yourself, for the impact it would have on those around you? It's just such an amazing experience
Mm.
training to be a coach.
You know, and
There's
as you're saying all that, thing pops into my head is I think it's like a saying. Maybe my parents used to say it, like, "Great things come to those who wait." No, it doesn't. Waiting never like achieves anything. Like, you're not in control of waiting. You're like very passive, very good girl. So great things doesn't come to those who wait. Great things come to those who take action and move forward, and they start to shape their life in a way that they want and choose to move forward. And so if that resonates with you and you had an upbringing like mine, and I know that they all said that with love in their heart, come and do our quiz. So it's which coaching course is right for me. That is a great next step, which is going to help you to choose the course that's right for you. You can find that at mycoachingcourse.com, or book a call, with me or with Joe. Head over to our website, which is igcompany.com/ILM call, and we'll happily help you to make a decision. So we hope that we will see you in 2026 if this is the year for you to step forward and embrace that goal.